Hi friends! Okay, so this video is going to be about my birth story. A lot of people have asked, so I figured I might as well just make a video about it. So, there was definitely a shock that it was 3. We also found out very early too. I was somewhere around 3 to 4 months pregnant when we found out. And with my tiny little body, I was concerned that I was going to have them around 29 weeks, which in my understanding is pretty average for triplet pregnancies, so I was a little bit nervous. But I ended up carrying them all the way until 34 weeks. And 37 weeks all the way to 40 weeks is considered full term. So anything after 37 weeks, you would just count that as being a full term baby. So we got really, really close to full term, which was really nice. They only spent 3 weeks in the NICU. So my scheduled C-section was for April 16th. And I actually experienced 2 births. I experienced an all-natural, no medication, anything birth with IV. And then the C-section, which is completely not the average, typical way of delivering birth, as far as, like, all-natural goes. It's still a birth, and it's still natural, and it's what my body could do. So anyway, the C-section was scheduled, and the nurses the night before discovered that the NICU was really busy for that next day where my C-section was supposed to be scheduled for. So they decided to just postpone it a day. I wasn't having any complications. I never had preeclampsia, nothing like that. And I only spent 12 days in the hospital. And it wasn't a bed rest thing. It was just they wanted to monitor the babies and make sure that I could get as far along as I could. So they wanted to postpone it, which was fine with me. They didn't tell me this, though, because it was the middle of the night. My C-section was scheduled for like 8 in the morning. So they were going to wake me up somewhere around 6:37 so that I could prepare for it. But they were just going to let us sleep, and then when we woke up, then they were just going to let us know that it was postponed for the next day. Well, somewhere around 6:30 in the morning, I had a pop. Now, my water never broke with IV. The nurse had to break it for me. That was only because we thought my water had already broken with IV. But what we didn't realize was it wasn't... There was just a leak in my water, so... Anyway, so the nurse ended up breaking the one with IV, so I didn't know what it felt like naturally, but that's exactly what happened. So there was this pop, I felt this pop, and I was like, huh, that's weird. I just figured one of the babies kicked me really weird. So I rolled over and went back to sleep. Nothing came out, nothing happened. So I rolled over as best I could with a triplet size belly. And then a few... I want to say minutes, but I don't think it was minutes. I think it was more like seconds. Later, I had another pop. And I'm like, well, okay, that's weird because nobody's going to kick me in the exact same spot 2 and 3 times in a row. Like, that's just not possible. Well, I mean, I suppose it is possible, but extremely rare. Too rare. So, but I had 2 pops. And I'm like, okay. And then I got up. And then stuff started to come out, and I'm like, oh no. So I informed the nurse, and I said, I think 2 of my waters broke. So she came in, and she asked me the normal questions. Have you felt this yet? Did you feel this? What happened when this happened? Stuff like that. I wasn't having contractions yet, so there was no big, hurry or anything. They just wanted to make sure that that's what it was that happened. I sat down, stuff just periodically kept coming out, so we knew that things were progressing fairly quickly. A doctor came in, and it wasn't my doctor. My doctor was notified, and she was on her way, but a doctor came in, one of the doctors that works with my doctor, and she wanted to test the fluid, just to be sure, just to make sure that that's what happened. So she took a test sample and she took it back to the room to test it. And then I started having contractions, and when they started, they were about 5 minutes apart. That's when they started. And none of this like, oh, it was 30 minutes apart. No, it's 5 minutes apart. And so the doctor came back in and she goes, well, that was definitely your water breaking. And I'm like, I know, I'm having contractions 5 minutes apart. And she's like, oh my gosh, let's check and see how much you're dilated. And so another doctor came in to do that. I was dilated 7 centimeters. So I was having those babies then, in the morning, that day, right then. There was no stopping it. And there was no postponing it to the next day, which was fine. They were in a good spot. They could be delivered then. That was fine. So here they thought they were postponing it a day, and my body's like, no, you told us the 16th. We're coming on the 16th. Okay, I guess you are. So I went into, so I'm laying on the, on my bed, and the doctors are saying that they're going to go get a wheelchair, and then we'll wheel into the OR, and then they'll do the surgery. Well, here am I with my triplet belly thinking, how the heck am I going to sit in a wheelchair? And so my doctor finally gets there, and she goes, she asks me, at what point previously did we check my cervix? And I said, you never have. In all the 12 days that I've been here, you've never checked my cervix. And she goes, what? And she says, well, I'm going to talk to some people because that can't ever happen again. And I said, I know. And so then when the wheelchair showed up, my doctor looks at the wheelchair and goes, yeah, because there's some way that we can get this triple mama into that. And she says, no, we're taking her in the bed. And I'm like, oh, good. So they're wheeling me to the OR in this bed. And they're moving fairly quickly because now my contractions are somewhere around 4 minutes apart, maybe even 3 minutes apart, I'm not sure. My doctor looks at me and she goes, if you feel the need to push, don't. And that's when I knew how close it was to actually delivering vaginally. Now, there's no problem with delivering triplets vaginally. My body can't do it. It's too small, and they're afraid that something was going to happen. There was going to be like a placenta eruption, or the placenta could be birthed before the child, or anyway, there's a whole bunch of different risks. There are triplet mamas out there who decide to do it vaginally, and that's great and amazing, and I'm sure that they did a wonderful job. But it just didn't work for me. So we get into the OR, and they helped lift me up onto the OR table. It took 2, 3, 4, I want to say like 4 or 5 people to help me up. The person who was doing my epidural failed on me 4 times. I realized he was a student, and if I had known that, I would have said, no, I'm carrying triplets. This is not a normal C-section. You will have a professional do it, not a student. So anyway, my back is screwed up for life. I've always had back problems, which is why I never did an epidural with Ivy. But I had to with a C-section. It was either that or a spinal, which is basically the exact same thing. Only an epidural continues to give you medication, whereas a spinal is just one injection. So I had the epidural, and when it finally reached the point of being effective throughout my whole body when they could actually start doing the doing the procedure. The anesthesiologist quickly looked up and said, "Now, go." And I realized that we were even closer. I mean, well, of course, even closer, but everybody was pretty much rushing because we were so close. And then Miss Violet, she was the firstborn, but she actually, when they pulled her out of my stomach, they pulled her out butt first because her head was already in the canal. She was ready to be birthed. So it was it was pretty intense. That's kind of my birth story. If there's any questions, like if I have said something but I didn't make it clear or whatever, you didn't understand it, then just ask. I can either make another video of it or just reply to the comment or whatever. If you're interested and you want to know a video about, you want me to do a video about the odds and about the how identicals versus fraternals work, what the chances are for my babies, things like that. Basically an informative, like, oh, identicals, fraternals, you know. Then just let me know and I can do one. In fact, I might just do one anyway. But, anyway, Anna got really close to crawling today. Hopefully I can get it on video before she does it for the first time. That would be a fun video to have up. Anyway, let me know if there's something you want me to talk about or something you want to see. Maybe there's something that you're curious, like, okay, well, if all three of them are doing this at the same time, what does it look like? Or how do you deal with it? Just let me know, and I'll do a video of it. What? This is Isabella. She's the one who's been whining and crying in the background because she keeps dropping her toy, huh? You keep dropping your toy, huh? Anyway, I'm also in a play right now. 7-month-old triplets, and I'm in a play. It's I Never Saw Another Butterfly about the Holocaust. And I'll do another video about that and tell you kind of my life as a triplet mama and being in a play. That's an adventure. That's for another video though. And I will talk to you all later. Let me know if there's anything you want to see. And hopefully I can upload another video sooner rather than later. My hope is that I can get one up once a week. And not go any further than that, because there's so much stuff that goes on in a week. I want to be able to cover it all. Okay, love you all. See you later. Look for my next video.